And you want to put it during audience of citizen, and it's not on the agenda, that's fine. If you want to wait till the agenda, I'm sure I'll have some questions tonight because we have a full docket of information we're going to need to gather before we make some decisions. But if anybody's disrespectful, I'm going to ask you to leave. So I don't expect that. We've never had it.
Recording started like just announce this November 12th.
November 12th, 2024, the Columbia Board of Selectmen. Okay. So first, if you'll join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I move to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minute, wait a minute. Approve the agenda as presented. Do you have anything? Great. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I move to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes for October 15th of this year. And so the three of you, anybody have anything?
The only thing I questioned was if Karen Friedman on 0.5 for me in the spell correctly.
I don't think it is. I'm not.
What was the question?
Karen Friedman is noted on 0.5 in old business. I think the spelling on her name is wrong.
Is it an I?
Yeah, I think it's I.
FRI.
I'm not sure, we'll check it, thank you. FR. Anything else?
Lori Bailing's name is spelled BEHLING.
Anyone else? Check your own names, make sure they're spelled right.
Takes too
Great, all those in favor?
long.
Any noes, abstentions? And Bill, thank you. Audience of citizens. Anything that's not on the agenda? Yes. State your name and address, please.
Mary Michael, 34 Dublin Road. Every year, on an annual basis, our lake consultant, TRC, presents an annual report relative to Columbia Lake. I would like to all participants, but to the Board of Selectmen, to extend an invitation to join us Wednesday evening, December 4th at 7 p.m. Carl Nielsen is our lake consultant, and he will be presenting some very valuable information related to Columbia Lake.
Thank you. So it's December 4th?
Wednesday, December 4th, 7 p.m.
Okay, if we can put out a reminder to everybody as it gets closer, because I know that there are some things that are coming up about the lake, and the lake is opening, it honestly is right around the corner. I mean, the clock goes faster every year from there. So, and there may be some changes. So I'd rather be ahead of it before we get behind. Okay, so thank you. Anyone else? Anybody on chat? No, right? Okay.
Well, I'd like to see things trained. No, nobody's up.
Great. No old business, new business. Pavement management program presented by the Beta Group. So last year we voted to bring in a group that would do an evaluation of our roads when it comes to paving, their age, their priority, and they're here tonight to present their findings to us. So please just introduce yourself and we'll go from there.
My name is Joe McGuire. I'm the project manager at Beta Group Inc., working out of the Hartford and Lincoln office. And tonight I'm going to be talking to you about the summary of findings for the actual program itself. to give you a little bit more information as to where things stand based on our analysis and what we found.
I'm just gonna.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Maybe if we double click it. Sure. There it is.
Oh, sorry. Oops.
Okay, so you get to go back to share. No,
Can you
X out of that. There it is. Oh my gosh.
Having to do this.
So there, down the bottom right, you've got the presentation. Over more to the right, right there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So again, my name is Joe McGuire. I'm with Beta Group. I serve as a project manager. I've been with the company for 9 years. We are a civil site engineering firm. I work in the GIS asset management group at Beta. So this is a little bit about ourselves. We were established in 1982. We are headquartered out of Lincoln, Rhode Island, but like I said, I split time in our Hartford office as well here in Connecticut. Myself, I live in Westerly, Rhode Island, so it's kind of why I split time, but I service mainly Connecticut towns, along with some of our Rhode Island folks as well. Our company is made up of over 170 employees, so I'm in the GIS asset management group, but we also have traffic, transportation, environmental, landscape architecture, water, wastewater engineering, structural, and construction services. So we are a multidisciplinary group. And my group itself has been doing pavement management for over 25 years now. We're probably the largest group in New England at this point that does pavement management full-time. We're a group of 15 employees full-time dedicated to GIS and asset management, specifically pavement. So what we're looking at doing, we're trying to maximize the town's budget that you have every year going towards your roadway and the paving that you do, or the road maintenance. So what we're trying to highlight as part of this program is to be proactive rather than reactive with the roads themselves. With costs being the way that they are these days and pavement not getting cheaper, this is a great way to be able to go in, analyze the entire roadway network that the town that BET is responsible for maintaining, and then looking at that and saying, how can we make informed decisions so that we're better spending the town's money on the roads themselves. So program goals and objectives, here we just have the standard federal highway deterioration curve. What this is showing is the natural life cycle of a road. Basically what we're trying to do as part of our program is highlight where we have roads that are still in very good shape, so we can spend less money on those to maintain them and to prolong the life of that road at a much lower cost, while still addressing roads at the bottom of the curve that still need reconstruction and more costly improvements, but trying to find that balance. That's sort of the point of the entire program itself, and then helping to implement that moving forward so that you can develop multi-year plans knowing that you have a strategy in place on how you're going to address roadway maintenance as a whole. So the 5-step approach that we take as part of our for every pavement project is coming up with the system setup and GIS mapping, which we'll get into. The actual roadway inspection program itself, in this case, we were using automated technology, and then doing our existing conditions analysis, where we're going to provide you with draft reporting and for review and comment. And then we get into our planning and prioritization and system deployment and training. The reason why I have those is 2 different colors. Depending on the community, we might do one before the other. It's just to indicate that those are kind of interchangeable. So before I move forward, like I mentioned, I'm in the GIS asset management group. So everything we do at Beta is GIS centric. So what that stands for is Geographic Information Systems. We are an Esri partner. They're the largest GIS firm in the world. And we work alongside them as a bronze partner. So everything in-house for us is through the Esri platform suite of applications. So from our ArcGIS online accounts, what we have locally licensed on our computers, and then the applications that we use out in the field in order to conduct a lot of the inspections that we do. So the approach that we took here in Columbia was to use automated technology. So at Beta, we offer two options. We offer Biolytics, which is what you're seeing here. This is an image-based approach. So what that means is we mounted a cell phone into the windshield of our vehicles, and our inspectors drive every roadway as that was included as part of this assessment. What's happening at that point is a live video is being recorded. The AI technology is then splicing that video based on the GPS of the camera, and it's dropping a point every 20-foot section of road. After that point is dropped, there's a still image attached to that, and that's being uploaded to the cloud server for that automated technology. And that's where our algorithm AI technology actually looks at these still images and tries to address any distresses that it's seeing in each one of those 20-foot photo increments. The company that we work with to do this is Biolytics. They are out of Germany. They're the leader in Europe right now for this technology. We also offer a LiDAR option. It's much more costly, but at the end of the day, the result is the same. You're getting a photo log of the entire roadway network. And Biolytics has only been in the US for about 1.5 years now. We were lucky enough to have an exclusive partnership this year that we came to an agreement on. So we were able to utilize that technology as part of this. So this just kind of breaks this down exactly what I was just saying. We're collecting all of that information at point level, that 20-foot section of road. And then that is then being averaged out for a segment level. So everything we do with the roads here in town, we break them into segments, usually intersection to intersection. If we have long stretches of road, we will break them at known locations and address or where there's a severe change in the distresses that we're seeing on the roadway themselves. So what that allows us to do is look at the entirety of the network as a whole, so the entire end-to-end of a road, but we can drill down into segment level and then point level data so we can get very specific with what we're looking at and recommendations that we're making, but also still maintaining that high level overview of the roadway network itself, so we can see if we're gaining or losing ground year to year. So as part of this assessment, we were responsible for looking at the 44.37 miles that Columbia, that Beth and the Public Works Department maintains. 0.04 of the roadways that are town accepted in town are actually graduated from the Condot's roadway file that we utilize. For private, the town is made up of 0.62 miles of asphalt roads and another 0.86 of gravel. And then we have just over 18 miles of state road here in the town to make up a total of 63.92 miles of road for Columbia. So that's sort of your profile. But as part of this assessment, we were only looking at that 44.37 of asphalt roads. So after we go out and we drive, again, the data is then returned back to us from Biolytics. Everything we do with our automated partners, we do not just take the AI and call it gospel. We actually have trained engineers looking at that data. We're taking samples of it. We're confirming that we agree with scoring as the AI is giving us. We're not just taking it for granted and saying, here you go, here's your data, do with it what you want. We want to actually get in there and confirm that we agree with the roadway scores themselves. So as our engineers are doing that, we're actually breaking each one of those roads into 5 major repair bands. So we have no maintenance required, which is usually roads scoring between 92 to 100. These are going to be roads that are in excellent condition. You probably paved them in the last 1 to 3 years. So you're not really seeing any immediate distresses and no real reason for immediate maintenance on those roads. Next, we go to routine maintenance. These are roads scoring anywhere between an 80 to a 92. So these are roads that are still in very good shape, but you might start to see a little bit of oxidation, a little bit of graying out on the road, potentially some very small cracking forming. And these are roads that typically would see some sort of crack seal or fog seal done to them in order to maintain them. Preventative maintenance is the next repair band. So these are roads scoring 65 to 80 in our system. These roads are in still fair shape. Definitely a little bit more distresses now being visible on the roadway, especially to the naked eye. But these are roads that we're trying to highlight as part of this program because, as I showed with the deterioration curve for pavement, we want to catch these roads while they're still in good shape so that we can apply less dollars to them to extend the longevity of that life of the road before they fall into our minor and major rehab band. So typically for your preventative maintenance band roads, you're looking at rubber chip, stone chip, ultra thin bonded wearing courses, micro surfaces, or just simple shim and overlays. But just really it's a surface level treatment. We're not doing anything to the subsurface or milling anything out of the road. We're just covering the surface of the road to maintain and preserve what's there. Minor rehabilitation is our next band. These are roads scoring from 50 to 65. they're in poor shape. You're definitely starting to see some more severe cracking forming, alligator cracking, maybe even some small potholes and rutting in the wheel wells of the road itself. And these are roads that are typically gonna require some sort of mill and overlay, cold in place recycling, hot in place recycling, or a heavier shim level and overlay course. And then lastly, we have major rehabilitation, which are your worst roads in town, 0 to 50. These roads are your worst roads. They probably require some sort of reclamation or reconstruction. Basically what we're saying here is that the road is deteriorated to a point that the base itself also needs some sort of rehabilitation. So we have to do a much more aggressive approach to rehab that road. And these are the roads that cost you the most money to maintain. So I'm gonna quickly just go through some representative samples. I did not take these from the town of Columbia. I normally never do that when I go into a presentation, only because I don't want people to start pointing and say that's my road if it shows that it's poor or something, but this will just give you a quick idea of what we're calling a really good road as opposed to a very poor road. Up top, we have the road scoring a 98. This was also scanned this year, so this is a very current photo. You can see it looks like a brand new paved road. Underneath that, road scoring an 88, so still in good shape, but like I said, starting to see a little bit of that oxidation, starting to age out a little bit and gray out, but no real issues with the roadway itself. Then we have a road scoring a 72. That's a road in fair shape. Starting to see much more cracking starting to form, but nothing to a point that we wouldn't be able to say and recommend doing some sort of surface treatment to catch that road before it falls further down the curve and extend the life of it. And then below that, more of your minor rehabilitation candidate. The cracking is much more severe. You're starting to see transverse cracking forming, even a few small potholes. So this is a road that we might recommend maybe doing some sort of mill and overlay or heavy shim coat to. And then we have some of your worst roads in town. So these are roads scoring in the 40s or below. Here we have extensive alligator cracking, transverse longitudinal cracking, and some potholes. And then down below, you can see the pavement is completely deteriorated to a point that it's all alligator cracking. And that's going to allow water into the base of your road and deteriorate that road at a much more rapid rate. So now we get into the actual data for the town itself. This is the estimated cost of improvements. So this is a breakdown of that 44.37 miles of road that we looked at as part of our assessment. And it breaks it out into the 5 major repair bands, starting with major rehab and going down to the no maintenance required. The total miles of road in town that fell into each one of those, the square yards, and then the percent repair that fell into it, and then the estimated cost that we're carrying for the average unit cost by square yard that we're showing here in the table. So from the top, with major rehabilitation, we're carrying about $48 a square yard. That's sort of the New England standard or average that we've been seeing. So that is the number that we're using right now as part of the assessment. And that has about 4.44 miles of road within that band. So your worst roads in town out of the 44 miles of road, just below 4.5 fall within that worst repair band category, totaling over 60,000 square yards or 10% of the network, roughly costing 2.9 million based on cost estimates. Minor rehabilitation at $18 a square yard, you have just under 12 miles of road, 161,000 square yards falling within minor rehab, almost 27% of the network, and that is also $2.9 million. So you can see how, because we're having a much higher cost for the roads in worse shape, and the minor rehab more than doubles that total length, they still come out to roughly the same cost to maintain. But that's just due to the fact that we're spending more money on the worst roads to rehab them. So preventative maintenance, these are the ones that we really want to draw attention to here. Carrying $9.50 a square yard on average. That makes up 13.5 miles of road, over 183 square yards, or 30.42% of the network. And that's coming in at $1.7 million to maintain the roads within that repair band. And then routine maintenance at $10 a square yard at $10.40, or at 10 miles and 10.45 miles at 144,000 square yards. 23.56% of the network at $144,000 to maintain. And then no maintenance required, you still have over 4 miles of road, 58,000 square yards at 9%, costing $0. So the overall cost that we're saying, so basically what this number is showing here, the 7.6 million, we're saying if the town of Columbia were to inject $7.6 million tomorrow, DPW could get every single road in town essentially to 100. based on going out and doing that road work. Now, that is not a realistic goal, but this is what we used in order to help sort of put a number to what it takes to maintain a roadway network. The overall score for the 44 miles that was assessed was a 71.42. That's a very good score. I know it might not seem like it because we're used to being in school and being told that 71 might be just about average, but in the world of pavement management, it's a very good score. Yeah. It's more than a C, I'll give you that. So 71.42, so the average, so we've done this for over 180 communities in New England. So our average is, that we typically see is like a 68, 69. So you guys are above that. It is very hard to gain a single point in a year when you're looking at management, because just like a car, the minute you drive it off the lot, it starts to deteriorate in value. Same thing with a road. You lay a road out, it immediately starts to deteriorate because time is your biggest enemy when it comes to paving. So in order to kind of maintain or to gain ground, that's where we're looking at the budget scenarios, which will be on the next slide. But this just gives you a quick snapshot of how, basically the profile of what it looks like for Columbia right now. What we essentially want to see is year to year, as we support Beth and the DPW with tracking the work that's getting done and looking at the planning stages of things. What we essentially want to see is that 7.69 million. I'd like to see that going down, because what should be happening is we still want to address roads at the worst point of their life and get them into either routine maintenance, no maintenance required, or even preventative maintenance, because there are ways to just boost the score on a road and maintain it for a little bit without doing necessarily what you would say the right thing. If budget becomes a problem, there are ways to work around that. And that's where us as a consultant can come in and give recommendations on those things. But essentially, the more roads we can pull into preventative, routine, and no maintenance, the lower the number should be going. That lets us know we're trending in the right direction. I don't know if we can go to the next slide because the clicker stopped working for me. Unless that's the.
We may have to do that here. What was the time frame what time of year did you do this? July or August?
Yeah, so we did it over the summer. I think you actually called me at the end of June, roughly, with the agreement signed.
After, I think the evaluation was.
Middle of July. Yeah. So for us, with Violytics as a new partner, it was kind of good timing. Thank you. Perfect. So with Violytics, it was a good timing because, again, our partnership had just started back in June of this year. And when we were able to go out and drive the roads, it probably took our inspector 3 days to actually drive the entire town with the automated option. That's why we do this. We do offer manual inspections. It's still the old school way of doing things where a trained engineer drives every single roadway segment and with a laptop and a database plugs in the scoring that they're looking at based on distress data. The reason why we started to move away from that in 2018 is because, one, consistency. The way I look at a road and would rate it is very different from the way Beth might look at a road or anyone here in the room. We could all be looking at the same thing. I could come up with a totally different score than everyone else. So what we were looking at trying to do back in 2018, which is when we made the shift, is to find those automated options that allow us to have that consistency. So this is repeatable work that we can constantly do to come in and actually update that as time goes on. And then we're not worried about having the same inspector looking at the same roads the same way. We're allowing the AI to do its thing while still checking it and making sure that we agree with the scoring based on what we know as engineers looking at roads. So this here is just an image of the, right now, the current score at the 71.42 as it stands now. And this has the work that was completed this year with the rubber chip seals that DPW had conducted on 3 roads. So this is the current snapshot right now as it stands. And as you can see, you have a great spread here. There's some orange and a little bit of red, but you also have a lot of dark blue, which is your no maintenance required roads, light blue, which are routine maintenance, and then the green are those preventative maintenance roads that we're talking about. So for myself, as part of this program, what my next steps would be is working with Beth to kind of come up with a way that we can start to maybe address some of those green and light blue roadways in town so that we can prolong the life of them at a much cheaper cost, while still trying to figure out how we're going to address some of those roads at the bottom of the curve so that we're not letting them further deteriorate. So this slide here kind of goes in line with the backlog summary of the estimated cost of improvements that I just covered. So we're looking at the forecast modeling here for Columbia. So what we're doing is we're running scenarios, budget scenarios. We try to find the happy medium to say, the current score is 71.42. What does it take with inflation built in to maintain that? Right now, what we're showing is I'm sorry, I did not change these, so this is my fault. It's down here, the scenario 3, $450,000, I should change those, I apologize.
Yeah, thank you.
In our binders.
450,000 for the, to maintain the current standing of things as it is. That is the happy medium, so that's where we're trying to say, if we can at least have that budget injected into the paving program every year for the next 5 years, you'd be able to stay around that 71.42, 71.5. If we go below that, if we go to 300,000 or 100,000, you start to see what's going to happen, and the lines themselves are going in a downward trajectory. Most of the time, what we'd like to do with this is kind of just highlight what the current budget is and show that over time, you're not going to be able to maintain the roads for what you're injecting. Usually that's the case in most communities that we work with. It's very rare where I walk in and somebody's like, we have $3.5 million to pay with every year. I think there's only one community that I work with that actually has it as a budget. So in that case, what we're trying to do is at least highlight here that we want to try to hit that $450,000 line so that we can maintain what you currently have. If we're able to inject a little bit more, let's say 600,000, or in this case, kind of the dream scenario of 800,000 a year, you'll be able to gain a lot of ground over that 5 years. Like I said earlier, it's very hard to gain points on pavement when it's a deteriorating asset. So in theory, what we're saying is that the 71.42, if we were to even just inject 600,000 a year over the next 5 years, you'd be above or just over a 73 as a score. So you'd be moving in the right direction. You'd have more roads in that routine preventative maintenance band, and you'd be able to maintain those roads for a much cheaper cost, essentially extending the dollars. This entire forecast model is being run off of that pie chart. So in this case, this is what we're calling more of a balanced approach. We're saying that we're not even putting a ton of the money into the preventative maintenance or routine maintenance. It's only 10% for routine, 25 for preventative. And then the remainder of that 450,000 for the maintaining is 50% is going to your minor rehab, another 15% is going to your worst roads in town. So as we play around with that pie chart, it's going to impact what the lines do here on the graph. But the biggest point here is most of the time, communities don't even incorporate routine or preventative maintenance. But if we just take a small percentage of the budget, 35%, and put it towards that, it does impact you in a very positive way. So it's really just what we're trying to highlight here. Again, I apologize for not having updated the budget scenarios. So then the last thing I want to get into, so this is the Manage My Roads platform. We deploy this this is our online platform as a partner with Esri. We use their suites online for putting these together. This is the most current iteration. So what this is all of the data that we've collected, we've now posted it on our online organizational account with Esri, so that Beth can go in, she can view the data, zoom into a road. As you zoom in, points will actually show up, and each one of those points represent what was seen by the phone at the time of the inspection, so you have an updated photo log. She can interact with the data there, and all of these widgets around the map itself all have different indicators on them. So we have that 7.7 million estimated cost of improvement number, total centerline miles being shown as the 44.37, total square yards, because everything we do for pricing is square yard base. Your overall score, the last time this was updated, we have the repair history as of 2024, so we will start to track that every year after to give credit to the roads that are being maintained. And then we also have in our pavement portal link here on the site, we also have all of our reporting posted as PDFs so that she has access to them and can share that with whoever needs copies of the report. And then we also have the roads laid out as alphabetical, worst to best, and then our cost benefit value. So the steps that we're at now, realistically, are sitting down and coming up with sort of the multi-year plan that Beth would be looking to develop with our support. Most communities, I would say it's probably a 50-50 split as to whether or not they really use us to just develop the plan for them, and then they give us feedback, or it's really just us helping out with making recommendations on specific roads as the director himself is putting the plan together. So we're flexible and we can do it in either direction. One thing that we use, and this is what I just want to highlight too, is the cost benefit value analysis that we do. So we're not just looking at the worst roads in town, as I've been saying, we want to highlight roads that are still in good shape, but could use some sort of cheaper treatment on them. To do that, we're running a cost benefit value analysis. So we're taking into account more than just the score. We're looking at functional class of the road. So if it's an arterial or collector, if it's a local dead end cul-de-sac road, that all weights into how this gets prioritized. Also, your longer, wider roads are going to carry more weight because they have more square yards. So it's a weighted average for the score themselves. And then we can build in other things as well. So if there's sidewalks on certain roads, if there's utilities, subsurface utilities that you know along roads, that can all weight into the roadway itself so that we can prioritize that in a fashion that makes sense for you. And then that allows us to kind of use that as the foundation for starting to pick roads that might be good candidates to include into a multi-year plan over time. So at this point, next steps for the program itself is I've sat down, delivered the final draft of the report with Beth and the online platform. Like I said, now we'll be kind of looking at how we can support you moving forward with the planning and or recommendations on different treatments that you might be interested in looking at trying and applying to certain roads. And then again, monitoring the road work getting done year to year until you're ready for a reassessment. Typically, we don't recommend reassessments until year 3 to 5. There's some other firms out there that will tell you to reassess every year. There's no reason to do that. We have built a deterioration into our program. So every road that does not get touched in a single year will lose about 2 points per year in its valuation. That seems to work well with the trend for the deterioration curve. And we can also customize that to make it even more accurate over time if we're seeing certain road functional classifications like arterials or collectors deteriorating faster, which is typical because they carry more traffic than your local roads. We can work with that over time, but to start, we start with that 2-point deduction per year. So essentially, if you did nothing to any road moving into 2025, that 71.42 at this point in time would now be a 69.42. So that's sort of how that works, and that's what I mean by it's a deteriorating asset. So we're always trying to figure out how to maintain it and or improve the overall score. At this point, I'll open it up for questions, but I appreciate your time and thank you for having me come in and discuss.
I guess my first question is for Beth. What's your thoughts on this?
It's a great tool to have someone outside evaluate. You know, I would say that most of the roads I had a good understanding, but it's a scientific based approach to pavement management. So I think it's very helpful, and you can play different scenarios. If we were to do this and this and this on certain roads, how would that affect the rating and really maximize the budget dollars?
Right.
Instead of just guessing.
Good. All right, I appreciate it.
So you'll work with Beth and
Yeah.
Beth, you'll guide us on how we want to proceed.
Okay.
Okay, do you have a question?
I do.
Yeah.
Does that include culverts and stuff? So are you look, right? I'm thinking double A. So does that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So as part of, actually, and I should have mentioned this earlier, so thank you for bringing that up. As part of the package that we have with Violytics, our agreement with them, as we drove, they're actually capturing signs, manholes and catch basins right now. So we're able to get those as an extracted layer. So that's also posted into that online platform. In terms of culverts, because it doesn't do any sort of like ground penetrating radar, there's no way to know exactly where a culvert location is. However, our group does specialize in other utility assets like culvert and stormwater mapping. So one thing I talked to Beth about is we can come back in and do sort of a boots on the ground approach like we normally do with most communities to actually go out, locate where you do have culverts, spatially drop that as a point on the map. So now you have a full picture of other assets on the roadway. And then we can also conduct an inspection on that culvert at the time of the location. So that way you have an idea of what condition it's in. And then if there was any sort of severe issue going on with it at the time of the inspection, so we can highlight that too as part of how we're going to maintain roads that do have those cross culverts underneath them.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
But I think also that the rating that you get is purely the surface of the road.
Right.
It doesn't take into consideration
Yes.
But when we build the plans, if we know that you have like drainage assets on it, we can build that cost for what it would take to maintain like a culvert on a given road. We can build that into our capital planning tool, so that way you're accounting for that added cost, not just the resurfacing of the road, but also what's going on underneath it if you have to make adjustments like that.
Well, I'm looking at this map though, the 3 roads that are in the worst condition in the town are those with the worst culverts or drainage. You have,
Which is
you
pretty,
have Hennequin,
standard.
Doubleday, and Erdoney Road. So,
So we'd have to
Yeah,
do it.
water is not
yes.
Our-
friendly to a road.
Time and water are probably the worst enemy of all
So we'd
roads,
have to
so.
deal with the culverts before we do any paving.
Correct. In terms of, my recommendation would be, yes, you wanna address subsurface issues first before you just spend money on topping a road, because essentially what we're gonna most likely see is, because those culverts are having other issues of their own, they're going to deteriorate that road at a much more rapid rate than it should, because you're having drainage issues already. So, yeah.
And that's been done in the past historically, if we're doing surface treatment, we're replacing any cross pipes, any, catch basin tops, anything like that, it's just how we proceed.
Chris,
So the roadway culvert committee that the town has established, they'll provide whatever input to Beth and her team, and they'll be part of this. Right.
it certainly should be considered and or included if they find it to be valuable, so absolutely.
Great.
Everybody good? Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time. Oh, okay.
This is in Rhode Island.
Oh, they are. Yeah, we work with about 23 other areas. Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Thank
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is fire marshal mutual aid agreement with Andover, Bolton, and Columbia. Our fire marshal is here, tell us about this, and then we'll make a motion.
Okay, well, all 3 communities, the positions are part-time. So when people are away, on vacation, sick, whatever, unavailable, the other community would come in and assist. Usually it should be Bolton really, because currently on the fire marshal of Andover and fire marshal, and Steve essentially is the deputy fire marshal of Andover, so it's gonna be between Bolton, fire marshal, and deputy fire marshal, and us, but Andover's in there because of myself and Steve being there, to just make it all, the corridor, work together.
How many fire marshals Bolton have?
They have 2.
Okay.
And we have, on occasion, when needed, assisted them, and we've been asked to do so, but, if something is bad, like say an arson, the person that does the investigation should be sworn in that community, and that's where it comes down to the problem. If somebody comes in to Columbia, does an investigation, it turns out to be an arson, basically that whole thing's gonna get thrown out because they're not officially AHJ at the time. Not saying we have that situation, but if it comes to court, it would be.
So, but I'm sure you guys, if anybody walks into a neighboring town through an agreement and looks and goes, this may be arson, you back out of it?
No, you can continue on, but, usually the state would, I would bring the state in,
Okay,
and assist.
I was just wondering how you feel
No,
about
no,
it.
it's, we
Okay,
get a little bit sticky with the legal aspects.
why you gotta single him out?
But, that's all it is, it's just to cover if somebody's not, it's not gonna be a, everyday thing, if it turns into an everyday thing for me going that way, I'm gonna look to end the agreement, because I'm not have the time or the energy, and if somebody's going on vacation, I know ahead of time they're doing vacation and they need help, that's basically what it's.
And why would you let them both be on vacation at the same time? You
Well-
or,
Well, if I'm on vacation, Steve's working, he works 24 hours,
Oh,
shifts,
working,
and then,
okay.
it's availability.
Okay.
Being in the part-time,
so this is what you guys agreed on, is what you want?
Yeah, you gave a copy to,
Yeah.
Mark to review and Hanover has a copy and Jim Hoover has a copy.
Okay, so I move to approve the fire marshal mutual aid agreement with Andover, Bolton, and Columbia as presented. Questions? Any more? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Columbia Lake. Hot topic. So permission to formalize the goose patrol. Permission, to formalize goose patrol permission and to use radio controlled boats and or drones. Who's running this thing?
Big striker.
Threw him under the bus. Yes, sir.
No bus needed.
Yeah, name and address and tell us what we're doing here.
Greg Stryker, 33 Samuel Hill Road. Yeah, so we had a 1-week test, middle of October, right before drawdown, just to try to see if we could humanely harass the geese to leave the lake. It was just an idea, give it a shot, see what happens. We had several solid, good volunteers, boats out there. We ran it for a week. The results are in your information packet. I won't go through every detail of them, but basically, we learned a lot. We were successful in the fact that we were able to get them to leave the lake, not the first day, but after that each day. And by the end of the test, they were gone for over a day. So, it'd be nice to know if the geese were migrating in, the new ones, or if they're residents coming in, but since they don't have suitcases, we don't know who's who. But the fact is that we are able to move them off the lake with humane harassment techniques. And the feeling with volunteers was, let's keep going, but we only got approved for a week. And in the October timeframe, the lake is high, we could use our boats. I did use my remote control boat in tight spots, and that worked fairly well to get them out. We also were cognizant of other wildlife, other bird species that we don't want to harass, we don't want to touch. And that gets into the importance of not having that, opening it up to anybody, right? You want people that understand what we're trying to do and keep control over it. So with the lake drawn down now we have a new challenge, there's no playbook on it. What I'm asking is to supplement my personal remote control boat with town buying 2. I'm not sure on the drones yet, but the drones as another tool in our toolbox, I'd like to try that. I do believe there's 2 to 3 small aluminum fishing boats that are on the lake now that people have volunteered to let us use. And if we had a couple of the aluminum boats and a couple of remote control boats and then on foot walking around the lake to get them off yards, I think, that's what my next step would be. See how that works, see if we really need to bring a drone in. We'll probably have this line of sight. So the remote control boats only, go a couple hundred yards and you can't see them. Our drones, similar thing, you have to be a pretty good operator because we don't want drones being lost in the lake. So if we did use a drone, I'd want to put like a piece of noodle underneath them so they would float. So basically, we're just asking for the tools that we want to try because there is no playbook on this. And see if we can continue to move them off the lake because the springtime is the critical time when they start making their nests and they start laying their eggs. And the fewer that we have around, the less comfortable they're gonna be to make their nests. And then we move into the addling and all that stuff.
So the plan is to continue with the idling in the springtime.
Right.
What about flying drones over the nesting areas up there?
Well, that's
I
what
know
we
that
also.
Mary had said last year, you had trouble getting in.
Yeah, so we'd have to find, who the property owner is and seek permission to do that. And that's in my, plan for 2, because drones are not allowed, right? Hovering over people's properties unless it's your own.
So we have to get permission from those women. And the geese really, they need to walk, the babies need to walk, so it's just a limited amount of area that we have to cover. But with more volunteers and more approval from the selectmen, we'll be better on top of it, come springtime. See where the geese are hanging out there over the winter time. And, and this whole thing's gonna be weather permitting. If the lake freezes over or it's just miserable out there for the patrol ease, we won't be doing it, but at least try. That's my theme is try, to get this done.
All right, so what kind of money investment are you looking at from the town?
So I put in the pamphlet, $700 estimate. Whether we'll use that or not, I don't know. I think we need identifying gear, like the green hats and a green vest. I talked to Peter Donick, he might have some for the town, the town facilities. A couple of remote control boats, a couple of drones. The volunteers went through a lot of gas that 1 week as we learned what we were doing. And a few people said it'd be nice to get reimbursed a little bit. Some people might not want to, but so I'm just putting in some, estimated costs to get this thing going.
What is your understanding of where the geese are gonna go if you succeed in doing this?
Other,
Andover?
I don't know here. I don't know, because you don't know if they're migrating and just dropping in for a couple of days or Mono Pond. I don't know. It would have been funny if they ended up over my pond, but they didn't have any arrive. But so I don't know where they go. But when we were doing the patrol, they typically would fly out southwest. They'd circle around and they head out towards, Mono Pond southwest.
Yeah.
They go south, they live on.
Either that or Robinson Pond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
Then they come back in around 10 to noon. And, if they're feeding, they like the weeds in Columbia Lake. So that's what we found is they usually arrive back by 10 to noon. And if you get right on, I'm like, my boat, I got a big pontoon boat with a 40 horse on it. And I went out and I was able to get rid of 40 of them or 30 of them in about 45 minutes.
So would you do it every day?
Yeah, as needed,
That's needed.
right?
Whenever.
And as time permits, there's volunteers and weather permitting, so as often as necessary. It's just the ability to do it will end up reducing the goose population, we believe. It can't increase it. It would only decrease it, which is what the real goal is to reduce the amount of the goose population on the lake. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, I had talked to Mark briefly about the communication system the town uses, opt-in. And we could add a opt-in for the watershed and the lake community to let them know when the patrol is out there. Could also use it for next summer water quality issues or beach closings or, anything like that. So my understanding is there's no additional cost for that.
But it wouldn't have to be, it could still be the standard, because if it's affecting the lake, it does affect the town. So we'd have to discuss whether we create a subcategory.
The reason I should have prefaced is we had a gentleman call, because he was aware of what we were doing, he thought we were just trying to run with geese. And he called Mark, and then Mark called me and said, obviously, we're not doing that. But the CLA emails is what we use to notify everybody, and not everybody is on that, right, around the lake. And so it just, the idea I had of using that notification system, and then if you're in the town and you're not in it now, right, why are you gonna be, you don't wanna get the rec department, you don't wanna get the town. If you just had a separate number for the lake, you might get more active users, I think.
Mr. Naza.
Hi, Michael Nazar, 19 Woodland Terrace, Chairman of Columbia Lake Advisory Committee. Just offering support from LMAC, getting rid of the geese will, not only help our community have, better use of property, but more importantly, the geese are adversely affecting the water quality in the lake, so.
But they eat the weeds.
Yeah, but they also put in a lot of phosphorus.
Yeah, Chris.
So I had a couple of questions regarding, what's being requested to invest, particularly the drones, $200 each. I mean, that sounds relatively inexpensive. I'm not sure if they're hobby grade or whatever, but with these drones comply with FCC requirements. I know recently they got the remote ID requirement to fly. Is this something that's gonna be in compliance with those requirements?
Well, we would make sure, I'm not a drone expert.
You have to have an FAA license to fly drones,
Commercially.
commercial.
And we have
Yes.
one,
I'm a certified, I'm an FAA pilot as well as drone pilot. And if I want to fly my drone recreationally or, for whatever use, I can do that. But if I'm going to get paid for it as a professional, then I need my license to do that and file flight plans and check the airspace, so.
So, and I'm not questioning, but I do know from hobby planes, right? Maybe they're regulated a little different, but hobby planes, unless they're in a controlled airspace, like a hobby club, you have to have remote ID requirements. If you're flying in your yard, technically you have to comply, that's why I'm not sure.
So these would be the smaller of the drones, which would fall under, some of those requirements.
Okay.
Because it's based on weight. And we don't have any airspace issues here.
Okay. Would they have cameras, would there be a privacy concern?
Right. There would if somebody flies one near somebody's property, but if they're looking on the lake and they're looking in the watershed up in the back pond, the swamp that feeds into the, you check with surrounding residents and.
the idea initially was, there's several realtors that have drones, take pictures of houses, you could ping a couple realtors and. I don't know the answer to whether they'll work or not, or whether they're a good tool or not. I just wanted the ability to try it. And the drones, we don't need a fancy $2,000 drone, we just need something to harass the geese off of somebody's yard and get them off the lake. So, that's a valid concern, we definitely look into that further. I don't have an answer for you on that, but there is one of the members of the patrol has a drone, and I can check with him on his licensing and so.
I would think you need it.
Okay.
And on 103 Lake Road. It makes sense to harass the geese on the lake, but I beg you to stay out of the swamp. Because even if you're just over the town property, you are affecting ducks. And we have migrating ducks there, but we also have a few residents. There is a heron rookery up there. And I just beg you not to do this in the swamp. And I really beg you not to do it on Monopond. There is no need to do it there. If you don't want them on the lake, I'd be very happy to host them at those two other places. But you are going to have a much greater effect with all that noise and harassment than just a few geese. Plus, you don't even know that this is gonna work yet. You really don't. I mean, you can get them off the lake. You prove that you can get them off for a day, for a couple of days. But, they may come back. So you keep harassing them because they're bothering people on the lake. But if you go into the natural bodies of water, the swamp, Mama Pond, other places around, you're going to have a much, much more devastating effect on other than the geese. Thank you.
Mary Rickles, 34 Derby. I respectfully, have some disagreement with Ann relative to, Putney Pond. Maybe it isn't drones, but in the integrated goose management plan that this board unanimously approved in 2023, there's data that demonstrates that geese don't nest on Columbia Lake. One nest was found up near the dam in a approach where we put a kayak into Putney Pond, and we're very careful. We are aware of the fact that likely on town property or private property, we would need access. That if we access from a different point, because it was like quicksand, we weren't gonna get out of the kayak and sink ourselves. We knew that the geese were nesting back in that area. Cobbs live up that way, they have a big farm up there. As an example, with their permission, could we access? I'm not sure drones would be as harmful as humans, but at some point, humans, one or two, need to go into out of those eggs, or we will just see continued growth. Geese produce 8 to 10 little ones. And once the little ones are on the lake, we can't do anything because they can't fly. And there are regulations that would not allow us, when goslings and or geese lose their flight feathers for 1 month in June, we can't approach, well, they won't fly away. So we can't humanely harass them. So I think we have to have a balance of how do we best do this to minimize nature, but maximize trying to, as Mike said, not only have a better lake community, but better quality of water. Geese produce, I forget, 1 to 2 pounds daily of their, what I call goose pate, and a lot of that ends up in the lake. And that is mainly phosphorus.
Yeah, I just wanted, this is only talking about the lake, getting them off the lake. We're not gonna go with drones and devices.
Yeah, I understand.
Until we have.
Lisa.
Is this being used other places?
Not that I'm aware of, but I did talk to DEEP, our Min Wu contact, and he welcomed what we were doing. And it's just more of if you wanna stick with it or not. You know, he acknowledged that harassing them will work, but the community needs to be willing to stay on it.
Okay, so it is being done somewhere, if you know, so what?
Well, harassing geese leave, but they also come back, we know that. What we proved in our 1-week test was that we can get them to leave pretty easily. What we don't know is how long will they stay away? And as they migrate back and forth, who are the new ones and who are the old?
Okay, so before I make a motion on this, what's the board feel?
I guess I would be careful with the drones around people's houses, because I know there was concerns about people were taking pictures of yards, just to notify people, you know, ask people's permission, and just try to stay away from the houses.
And part of the communication would be, you know, you're gonna try a drone, you can communicate that out. If you're, don't want it over your house, let us know, I guess, something like that. But I mean, you look at the realtor pictures.
I know they do
There was a
that.
realtor gets permission from, because they're selling their house.
Okay.
Bill, thoughts?
I'm concerned about I share some of Ann's reservations about it. And I'm concerned about the noise on the lake area during the summertime. And I'm wondering if, you know, I think Lisa asked a very valid question in terms of the fact that is anybody else doing this? You know, it seems to me that somebody at the DEP can give us a better idea how to get a handle on this, and perhaps you can share with me what you learned from speaking with them as far as other ways to remedy this. I'm not sure, I'm not saying I don't think that this is an appropriate way, but I want to proceed cautiously with this before we jump into this.
Yeah, well, Mary's CLA goose patrol or goose management plan, she partnered with Minwood, and that's how we got his contract. And one of the remediation efforts is harassment. And so that's what we were going after. Whether somebody else has formed a goose patrol on a lake, I've not heard of it.
But this is a new form of harassment.
You're not new.
Are other communities using drones to harass geese?
I have not checked with other communities.
Okay.
So if we take the drones out of this, that, because we're not getting a real warm fuzzy on
Sure.
the drone situation. So if we take the drones out of this, do we find that it's, are people more
And the drone idea came because, walking around the lake is difficult. And, the shallow and all the rockiness and the blind spots and stuff. I wasn't sure we were gonna need them. That would be the last, issue. If we can get some the aluminum fishing boats, out there with the remote control boats, I think that would suffice.
So is there, because I'm certainly in favor of trying to, is there a happy medium that now that the lake's drawn down, their boats really shouldn't be on there, that maybe we continue a trial like they're doing in the off season? They can try doing, the drones and whatnot, as long as it's within the regulatory requirements, assuming that, there are some there, and have them report back, and then we can reassess in the summer months when, you're more concerned about privacy and, and traffic in the boat and all that. So I'd be in favor of maybe trying a temporary period.
Where are the geese now?
I was down by the dam at Blood, I believe it's Hunt's house, down by the dam. They congregate over by Newford. I didn't see any on it where going.
There's about 60 at the island yesterday.
So you could still do something now.
The island is
Well, that's what we're
completely
trying to
covered
do.
with geese.
Yes, but they're there that we still want to try to get them.
That's what we're talking
With the
about.
aluminum boats that they can launch from the shore.
Yeah, like a John Deere flat bottom.
Yeah, so to do it, just try and see how it works with bring their Chris's.
Lisa?
The main problem would be the drones. I don't have a problem with using the drones, not so much to scare them out of Utley Swamp on the town side, but to locate the nest so you could add on in the spring, the eggs in the spring. I'm not so fond of using the drones to chase them around, but to discover where they are. I can see it a little bit. It would need to be done with notifications and stuff. You gotta do something. I don't see anything other than adding eggs to, and the only way you're gonna find those nests in Utley Swamp is if you have a drone. You're not getting out there, I walk there. You aren't getting out in that swamp to figure out where there's nests without some overhead look. You have to be real thoughtful in how you do it.
Well, and there's been a lot of thought put into it, and this is the most conservative. There are far more extreme measures that can be taken. Yeah.
Which we reached a consensus, we did not want to go to killing them, rounding them, et cetera. So the consensus was addle
We drained the lake.
and harass.
So, yeah.
I'd be curious.
All right, so in hearing all that, I'm gonna move on a couple of these things. I move to approve the formation of official Columbia Lake Goose Patrol. Seems like something my grandkids would watch on Tuesday morning. Honestly, well, we got Paw Patrol, why not Goose Patrol?
Or another name.
I move to approve the formation of a Columbia Lake Goose Patrol managed by LMAC. Okay. All those in favor? Aye, opposed? I move to approve the goose site aversion methods as presented with suspension of the usage of drones until further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. And I don't have a problem. I move to approve the creation of the opt-in lake watershed notification system using the existing town opt-in method to notify anyone in town. Tired of this lakefront stuff, guys. To notify any resident in the town of Columbia of patrol activities on Columbia Lake. Okay, got that? Not just lake owners, lakefront homeowners. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed. Okay, so you got 90% of what you're looking for. And now you're gonna ask me about money. Fake brownies, okay? Okay,
I think the funds could be in LMAC. I don't know if we've burned through it. I think we can work it out with the LMAC budget, Steve, at this point.
you're only asking for 500.
I think we should
Can
stick
we
to
have it?
the budget and then we'll
Okay,
decide.
We'll stay within budget. We.
I like brownies, you get $10 from me. All right, you good with that? Thank you. You're in charge. I know where you are. That's right. Okay,
I got
listen, I appreciate the fact that you don't live on the lake. I appreciate the fact that you have great concern over the lake and you use the lake and that you stepped up for this, okay? It means something to me. I couldn't hear you taking this. But I don't like surprises.
Right.
Okay, keep us informed.
I will.
Okay, keep the residences around the lake informed of what's going on and anybody that's on the system. Okay? All right, thank you. All right, next is a couple of construction. 45 Sleepy Hollows, first on the dock. I'm not making any motions here. We always do pre-approve, so this is, all right. I'm sorry, yeah,
Robert Davis.
Robert Davis, you're the owner of the property.
That's right.
And you have contracted with Blair, Jim Blair.
That's correct.
So who's gonna best tell me what's going on here? Cause I get it, but I wanna hear it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the lead if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you guys for giving me a few minutes to tell you my side of the story here. So I'm here regarding the application for a new boat dock on 45 Sleepy Hollow.
The packet and the foundation of this discussion is in your binder first. Go ahead.
And I do have a new handout for you guys, I'm gonna pass around in a minute. It's my understanding that LMAC has advised that we not approve the dock, rebuild as I wanted it. And I'm here hoping you guys are gonna reconsider it, because I think this is my last line of defense. Just quick background, my wife and I purchased the property at 45 Sleepy Hollow just in August, so it's not like we've owned this for 20 years and we wanna rebuild and change the dock. In fact, this property needs a lot of work, and not to bore you, but it's part of the story. There's been no capital investment in this property for 40 or 50 years. It literally needs everything. Utility poles are outdated, there's trespassing, they're called trespassing poles. The pole for 43 Sleepy Hollow sits on the property of 45. The pole for 45 Sleepy Hollow sits on the property of 47, so I'm gonna fix all that. The trees are a problem, they're overgrown, they've reached their maturity, there's dead ones that have to come down, there's widow makers, it's dangerous. I'm gonna fix all that. There's an old septic system, I don't know what the impact of the lake is on that, but I'm going to. That's gonna be removed, we're gonna put a brand new septic in, which should make everybody happy. There's a 100-year-old cabin, which is very nostalgic, as we were talking about, but it's also
in real disrepair. It's actually very dangerous, and look at the portion underneath, it could fall down anytime. We're gonna knock that down. There's erosion, the landscaping needs to be repaired, and when it rains, it rips right through this lawn, because there's no lawn, and it ends up down in the lake. I'm gonna repair all that. I'm gonna, eliminate that. With Jim's help, we're gonna eliminate all that erosion. And then, getting to the LMAC stuff, the lake wall is 50 years old. It doesn't even look like a wall, it's collapsed. There's erosion happening into the lake. And then last but not least, the dock. The dock is over 30 years old, it's rickety. And part of my important point is, I think as it's designed, I don't think it's safe. And I'm gonna show you something in a minute. So everything on the property has to be updated and improved, and I'm gonna do all that. We submitted applications for the lake wall and the dock to LMAC and the Wetlands Commission. And the lake wall has been resolved, so I won't even go into that at all. All I will say is, I thought that process with LMAC went pretty well. It wasn't accepted the way I presented it, but there was good discussion, there was time and effort put in by LMAC, time and effort by myself and Jim Blair, and we ultimately compromised and came to a point where everybody was happy. So the whole lakefront is gonna be rebuilt, it's gonna be a lot better than it is today. And again, that was a very positive experience with LMAC. That brings us to the dock. There was a lot of discussion on the dock, and the time to do the dock is while you're doing the lake wall. So we want to repair and replace the dock. I'm looking to make a slight change to the dock. In the September meeting, I'll take you through quickly what I presented. I'm sorry? Well, there was a September meeting first. In the September meeting, my first meeting, I had a presentation to LMAC to increase the dock by 12 square feet. I just wanted to increase the platform. And my feeling is that platform is a long walkway out to the dock. And it's long because this is almost in like a cove. So it's a long walkway out, and then there's a platform where you would be boarding the boat. And the platform is small, in my opinion, and therefore I believe it's dangerous. So I was hoping to take square footage from the walkway and add it to the platform and keep the dock at the same square footage. Some thought that was reasonable, some didn't, because I'm making a change to a grandfather dock, even though I was keeping the square footage the same. Then a suggestion was made by someone that, well, Bob, you have over 100 square feet of lakefront. Have you considered, were you thinking about building another dock? Because I can build a second dock on that property up to 100 square feet. And, or would you consider waiving that right if we gave you this 12 square feet? So I wasn't prepared to make that decision in the meeting. We already had a lot of discussion. The meeting was pretty much halted and the matter was tabled at that point. So on to the October meeting, I had time to think about it, took another look at everything, and I formally proposed that I would waive my right to a second dock on the property if I could increase the platform by 26 square feet. So I kind of increased it. I said to myself, if I'm gonna waive the right for 100 square foot dock, can I make this platform just a little bit bigger from 12 to 26? Again, some thought that was reasonable in exchange for 100 square foot dock, and some did not. And then, my biggest concern is a bigger platform would be nice, but it's a safety issue, and I was a little troubled by the fact that the safety issue, some saw that as a reasonable concern, and others were skeptical, which I still don't understand. A week later, I don't understand why they were skeptical, but there were some colorful comments about it as though I were making up the safety issue. So I'd like to pass out this drawing I updated, because I think it's easier than me talking about it. So in the first meeting,
on the proposed dock that I'm looking at here.
yes,
With adding the 26 square feet, how big does that make the existing dock, adding the 26?
how many square feet?
Yeah.
I believe it's like
198.
198, right.
well, no, then it's Because there's 172 and then 26.
But there's 8 feet hanging over short, which you pointed out to me.
So the existing dock,
190, let's say. So, so let's call it about 190, Steve.
Jim Blair, how big is the dock? For official measurement, how big is the dock? For the official, this is what the existing dock, this is what the dock will be. What is the official measurement that we have to consider?
So what Bob just said is correct. So it's from the face of the wall out. So the 172
164.
is a little less than that because it's actually from the face of the wall, which is established. So
Okay, so there's a couple feet that go on the land, but from the face of the wall out to the end, you have
164 square feet.
Excuse me.
Hold on, I feel like Judge Judy up here. Okay, 100, and with the 26 added, you're looking at 188.
Something like that.
What can they have? 200?
No, so he's got a dock that exists, and right now,
It's
the
great.
guidelines say that the dock may only be replaced as is.
I
And,
understand.
but he does have because he's got 110 linear feet of lake frontage, he does have the right to have a second dock that would be 100 square feet.
Okay, so if he was to put a new dock, it would be 100 square feet.
A second dock,
A second dock, yes.
right?
So you want to hand out your safety?
Yeah, I'd like
issue?
to hand this out because it illustrates the safety issue, and as a result of hearing the feedback from LMAC in meeting number 2, the October meeting, I'm proposing go back to the 12, but I'm still formally willing to waive the 100 square foot dock. And this,
So you're showing us this, but can you tell us why it's a safety issue? Because it's been there for 100 years, you said.
yeah, I think I tried to illustrate it on the, on this hard copy.
And the dock now is 10 by 5 out at the end.
Yeah, I call that the
Platform. Platform is 10 by 5.
So, you know, there's 3 pictures of the dock, the first on the left, that's the existing dock.
Why is that an unsafe area? Pylon there.
Well, if you can see the boat that's docked there,
Yes?
and that, what I've illustrated there is where you would board the dock. And if you're 20 years old, you maybe only need 2 feet to jump into a powerboat. But for people that are in their 60s and 70s and we have family members, it's a little bit of an effort to get in. And the concern is you could step off while the people are helping someone get into the boat. It's a 4-foot walkway. It's easy to step off the back or that corner that I've circled. That's my concern of where it's unsafe. And, you know, as I illustrated in the center, the 12 square feet that I've highlighted, if we could just make that platform a little bit bigger, now, as the right picture on the right shows, the boarding area, whether you're stepping forward or back or somebody's falling, you've got a lot of by adding just that 2 feet, you've got a lot more platform. I think it's a lot safer. And I have experience. We have family members that have issues and need help in and out of the boat, and it takes a couple of people.
Are these pylons, the dock rests on them, are they also above deck line? And they're existing?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, Elmac, you weighed in on this, you said no.
I don't know what you're looking at because I've never seen it, so I can't comment on that. One is, I think it's very important to understand that what he has now far exceeds what the regular, or the guidelines allow for a dock. So he could, you know.
If it's a new dock, but it's grandfathered, so it doesn't exceed it at all.
No, I'm just saying that as for a new dock in town, we have a set of guidelines. And this dock, as it is, far exceeds what is allowed for a new dock. So he's already got plenty of of dock there. But when we start to put in, you know, hyperbole like it's dangerous, you know, it's already bigger than most other docks on the lake, so are we saying that all the docks that are smaller than this are more dangerous? And on top of it, what criteria, if you're even considering this, that, you know, someone needs extra help, what is the objective criteria that you're going to apply to this exception if you choose to accept it, so that it can get applied to all the other applications that we've already seen to date and new applications? So just giving this because I think it's dangerous, or I think it's compromised safety, is not any set of criteria that we can use moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you a question, because I'll forget it and I'll come right back to it. When you're putting people on your boat, why can't you come starboard side, port side to the end and load people on your boat? Then you've gained another foot in case they get wobbly on the dock, I guess, and you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying? Why can't you moor up this side? That way you have more unobstructed to be able to get on the boat without putting any more extension on.
You got the waves coming in and that.
It's okay.
That's one challenge.
Okay. Yeah, Muffy, please.
Muffy Carter, Martha Carter, 34 Downey Road. And I'm speaking as a citizen and not as CLA president. Our dock is 4 foot wide, and we've never had an issue with getting people in and out of our boat. And in fact, with our other boat, we do bring it alongside to help people get in when that's needed, so it seems reasonable to me. And I raised this at LMAC, and I'll just say it again, you know, we rebuilt our dock in 2005. There was no option, we had a grandfather dock as well. Nobody said you can take your total square footage and change the configuration of the dock. Or that we could take square footage that didn't even exist in a dock that wasn't there and apply that to justify expanding our dock. So if the board approves this, I'm gonna be coming right back with a permit application to change my dock, and I bet a lot of other people around the lake are gonna be doing the same thing, because that's not the rules that we were told applied. So I know they're not really the guidelines, I know your discretion to do what you want, but I think it's a fairness issue to the rest of us that we're told we have to do things in a certain way. That troubles me if we make an exception, because there's gonna be a lot more exceptions.
Okay, thank you for your input. And it troubles me that you sit there, you're telling me you're gonna threaten me about everybody bringing their permits, okay? You have to let us do our job, okay? I see you cut it back, you took the 2 feet, the 10 feet off the end of it.
Right.
Here's how this is just my opinion. We're worried about space, we're worried about docks, we're worried about everything else. He's willing to give up 100-foot dock, which he could put out there, okay? For 12 square feet. On the inside of his existing dock, his kind of, everybody in town's water area, but his inside there. However, your argument of safety, to me, more up on the outside, that's where you bring them in. And I too think you have what you need here. I really do, because there's an alternative how to get in your safety issue. And I also think there will be people who will say, hey, listen, I'd like to change mine a little bit, because I have grandma who is confined to a wheelchair, we get her down there, and I'm not saying that's your instance, but people will come up. I do believe that. Okay. That's my thoughts right now. I'm gonna think about it a minute. Judy,
I guess, the person, that you're talking about saved because somebody's in a wheelchair.
but he didn't say that.
Well, no, it says here,
Oh, I didn't read that.
yeah, including use of wheelchair.
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's, okay, that's what I read.
I don't know where that came from, I apologize.
Okay, I was just thinking if you're in a wheelchair, you need to have enough space to turn the wheelchair around, so you will need a bigger area
No.
to be able to, just to bring the wheelchair down and to get onto the boat, but it's not. So you're talking just about mobility issues?
I'm talking about, yes, and I don't wanna throw myself on the floor here and tell you all about my family members that have challenges, but I can assure you I'm not making it up. And we currently own the property on 43 Sleepy Hollow right next door. It's got a big platform, and when we're helping family members, there's a couple of them in and out of the boat. There's two people in the boat holding the boat to the dock, and there's two people helping the person in the boat. So I'm going by experience. It's not a wheelchair yet, it could be in the future. So, and for me, as I look at the property, that's why I explained to you there's the trees and the septic and the utility poles, there's so many problems here. It's counterintuitive to me to rebuild this dock in a format that I feel is unsafe. When if I could add 2 feet to the inside, not going further into the town's property, and I can alleviate that safety concern that I have, and maybe others do not have, but I have it. It seems counterintuitive to me to not do it, and I'm willing to give up that 100 square foot dock, which I'm entitled to.
Hi, Henry Rickles, 30 George Road. Although he's not here, and I know he tried to be, but he's traveling. I spoke with Bob Howell, who's a member of LNAC, and would like to make a couple of thoughts.
And who's also a registered architect.
And who is registered. And when he was part of putting these guidelines and revising these guidelines, he checked with the ADA, American Disabilities Act, to understand how wide should a dock be. And actually, a wheelchair apparently needs 2 feet for someone typically standard to sit in, and needs 4 feet for it to be able to be turned around. Therefore, that's why in the guidelines, they put in 5 feet, an extra foot, but 4 feet works. We know that on our dock, we face very similar situations. That's number one. Number two, a year ago, I was here at the Board of Selectmen, and we had the same exact issue of someone wanting to change a dock, 146 Route 87. And LMAC then unanimously voted, as we have unanimously voted on this one, to deny that. But the Board of Selectmen, until we could figure it out, allowed us to dismantle that dock so the person could get it done. In that month time, I came back to the Board of Selectmen with a motion in December that that individual was willing to work, instead of having an L shape, exactly what is being asked here, to keep it within the original structure. So even a year ago, not just 20 years ago, we have stuck to these guidelines, and this is going to set a precedent where people will say, safety issues, they were able to change square footage where we wouldn't a year ago or 20 years ago allow square footage to be changed.
Did we vote with you or against you on
Bob Powell?
No,
the board.
Last
Last
year.
year, you approved it.
You approve what we.
You
recommend.
You approved what we
In
recommended.
December, you approved.
Listen, we value your recommendations. We value, and I'm not,
No, I know.
I'm just trying to get factual and lay this out for my own thinking. Bill?
Was the vote unanimous against this?
No.
And I'm not,
No.
And
You said
LMAC,
unanimous,
it was
yes.
7-0 with 2 abstentions. One abstention was recused themselves.
Chris, I'm sorry, I had to remember something. Now I have to remember that I told you I remember you.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing that you had mentioned, it would be expanding square footage in towards the house, not out, so from a, you know, the surrounding environment, it wouldn't be encroaching outward. I mean, I thought the, waiver of 100 square foot second dock, I thought was, you know, something more than reasonable, but I also understand you're gonna open up potentially a Pandora's box, and you're gonna have a lot of requirements. I mean, personally, I really struggle with, you know, these infringements on property rights, but that's my personal opinion.
I don't, because it's the town's lake, sir.
I want to express my frustration with LMAC because I feel that we rely on you to do this for us. And I'm frustrated by the fact that this has to be litigated before us, rather than you guys trying to resolve this among yourselves.
We did the best we could and did resolve the wall situation.
Right.
The dock situation was unanimous, and that's how we chose to resolve it.
Mike, he's had his hand up, Mike.
You know, if you're even entertaining to, the other reason we didn't approve this was that we have no mechanism to memorialize the fact that this property will now not allow to have a second dock. So there's nothing that we have in town to memorialize this. So there's also another issue that his property.
I did offer to LMAC, and they know this, that if they approve this, I pay for the legal fees that are written into the deed.
That's how you do it.
Okay. Anybody, any more?
I guess to really get a good understanding, I'd like to see it. I mean, I'm not sure which way to go with this. I understand what Elmac's saying, I understand what you're saying, and I'm not sure. Maybe if I saw it, physically saw it, it would help. I don't know.
So what is the standards? Granted, I know they're grandfathered, what is the standard?
The standard is 100 square feet. So for example, you know, 4 feet by 25 feet or 5 feet by 20 feet, depending on what, you know, what your needs are. That would be a typical application of the standard which is 100 square feet. So like I said, when we started, is that this dock already exceeds what's, you know, allowed in the guidelines for a new dock.
And when were those standards set? Because I'm looking at Mary Royal's dock, it's 5.5 feet, 3.5 inches by 33 feet, 3 inches.
Again, that was
And-
a grandfather.
Right, I understand that. I'm just wondering if that's how docks were built. What was the standard then?
I don't think there was any when they built this house.
I get that.
No, we talked about this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but the 100 foot, the 100 feet has been, I've been on LMAT for 20 years now, and it's always been 100 feet. I mean, so it's decades and decades old. 97?
But it doesn't matter on this dock because it's grandfathered. I understand what you're asking, but I don't understand.
Well, I think 4 feet's narrow. If I recall, the ramp they wanted to put up to the thing they wanted to make, up to the boathouse, they wanted to make it 5 feet. They were gonna switch it to 4 feet, but even that they wanted to be 5 feet.
But they have 5 feet if they,
I understand, but I'm just saying, even to me, 4 feet of dock going up is narrow.
The
But
next application at 15 Sleepy Hollow is 4 feet by 25 feet.
can
It
you
is-
put railings on these? I don't know, are railings allowed?
I leave that to the.
No,
Mary,
I,
I understand that. Is it feasible, can they, if they wanted to, on this existing dock, could they put railings on it?
on the one side, on the inside.
I don't know why not.
I don't know that we have any restriction on that.
Okay, so the
Route
answer is,
87, there's a dock rebuilt last year that has a ramp.
Okay.
so the answer is yes, they can put a railing on there. All right,
And again, I apologize, this paper, it's been brought up, it's maybe part of what we were just talking about, but has it been considered, or is it even an option to reduce the overall length, cut in square footage, and let them, you know, make the width he wants here and come in, you know, and not be as long, not be 33.8 feet, it's 28 point whatever feet, but
Oh,
it
but then
gives
your
you.
pilot, then they have to. move on.
But he's gotta, if I'm understanding the drawings, he already has to put in new pylons anyway in order to expand. Again, I'm just saying, is that something considered or even an option?
It was part of the original discussion, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was my first presentation. but-
So it's not the design. It's the area of square footage that is grandfathered,
The original structure as is how it's written.
so he can't shorten it as is.
Theoretically, you're correct, which is why
That's
we
why.
did not propose it.
Even if he stayed within the same square footage, I mean, it's
We're just,
still a rectangle that has a segment that's cut out of it, but.
as the guidelines read, and we follow the guidelines.
Okay, final.
The final point is, I realize I'm asking for an exception. You know, the grandfather dock is the grandfather dock, it's 164 feet as is, it's that long, as I mentioned earlier, because you're coming out of a cove to get to the water depth. And I'm willing to waive my right to the second dock, which is 100 square feet, the net is 88 feet that'll never be built on the lake. So that's my ask, is adding 12, I realize it's an exception to a grandfather dock.
Okay, I have some motions here and we'll vote. I move to approve 45 Sleepy Hollow application to rebuild their 110-foot seawall, specific to the applicant's 13-foot opening request in the seawall, and that the seawall be rebuilt in that section only at the lower height of 15 inches than the remainder of the seawall, based on current seawall rubble and historical pictures indicating that the seawall portion was lower. So basically, you had a seawall there, it had another seawall, but it was lower, it had a cut in there, or.
Yeah.
And it was done in a 13-foot opening.
Correct.
Okay, you wanna rebuild that? All those in favor of that? Aye, and LMAC recommended approval on that. Okay. In addition, I move to approve the steps, which must be no more than 4 feet wide, to be placed by the east side of the existing dock. Existing dock? I'm adding that word in, it's the existing dock. Okay, east side. And that LMAC approved that. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good. I move to deny the current dock. Where'd we get 172 square feet?
I think that was in our motion, wasn't it? There is a perception that has been presented that there's a dock and a walkway on the land. When we reset the seawall from on the town lake bed with rubble back, there is very little, if inches, that are on the land. A seawall and a dock must attach to a shoreline. When we reset the markers for the seawall, that went away. It's a dock.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. So I move to deny the current dock and its current square footage to be rebuilt, adding any additional square footage. Any discussion on that? Any more discussion? LMAC approved it. All those in favor?
Can you
Yes,
say
they
that?
can, I move to deny the current dock. I have to make two motions then. So are you gonna rebuild this dock anyway, existing, or are you just gonna leave it as, if you don't get the extra footage, are you gonna do anything to this dock?
I have to rebuild it as is. If you don't give me the extra square footage,
Is that below?
It's
the
getting
water grade?
rebuilt one way or the
it's
other.
gonna get built.
If we. Okay, so I move to deny, I move to allow the current dock to be rebuilt at its current existing square footage and design. Right? That's what LMAC approves. All those in favor? All those voting no?
I'd still like to look at it, get a better sense. but-
Okay, so 5 abstentions, great. What's our course of action?
Can we do?
We don't wanna let them do anything. I gotta tell you,
It just, I mean, I know what, we go along with what LMAC says, you come up with guidelines, if you change something, then it sets a precedent.
all right,
So
well, there's
is it-
another motion I can make. Does anybody wanna make a motion allowing them to do this?
See, do we wanna change the precedent? It sounds like it's reasonable in some ways, but do we wanna change the precedent? I think is the concern, I think more the concern than that. And I don't know how much of a problem would that be if we change the precedent?
Well,
I guess we got.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. I have to hear from the board.
Okay.
We can't do nothing because this is the time frame that we allow our citizens who live on the lake to be able to work on their docks.
Right.
So we all didn't vote on anything, but we have to give him something. Keep the dock as it is, rebuild it as it is, or give him more. That's really the only two, because he should be allowed to work on his dock. Discussion.
How can we make it safer? Because you're saying it's not safer and still still follow the precedent, or not change the precedent that's been set. And I don't know if there's an answer to that.
So why is your perception it is unsafe?
A good question. I guess I do believe that's what he's saying. I don't, that there's some issues if somebody has some mobility issues.
Yes, Chris.
So, it's, my understanding, some new information was provided to us, right? LMAC, someone may just be hearing it tonight. Is it an option to give them 2 weeks or whatever till the next meeting? Give LMAC and the gentleman an opportunity to further discuss and come back and we'll vote in 2 weeks. I mean, I agree, we've gotta do something.
Yeah.
But
1 week.
do we?
It's 1 week.
1 week, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We just saw this.
Let's table it.
Yeah,
I really, you're litigating this thing right now, and you're expecting us to make quick decisions on it, and I really think we got to ponder this a little before we start doing so. You know, that's what frustrates me, is because of the fact it's being brought for us, everybody's very emotional about it, and we have to address it in this moment. I think we need time to think about it.
Okay.
yeah, I
All right.
agree. It's,
Start building a seawall.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll discuss this at a later, next week. Don't know if I will be here next week.
That's right, we're meeting next week, it's not 2 weeks.
Right.
Okay, seawall rebuild and 2 dock replacement at 15 Sleepy Hollow. Dana Barnes. I move to approve 15 Sleepy Hollow applications to rebuild their seawall and 2 docks as is at 24-foot long and 4-foot wide, with the exception of moving 1 dock now located 17 feet from the abutting property to the opposite side of their lake property, providing a 25-foot buffer from that abutting property. How much lakefront do they have?
120?
Something like that.
Okay, so they can easily take the one out, even if it's grandfathered, because they're keeping it under the size, 100 square feet, and we're moving it to a location that has set aside.
And the guideline is 25 feet.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
This was easy. It was easier.
Okay, I move to approve the application for a dock water reseal for the Woodland Terrace Association as set forth by the LMAC committee with the listed conditions. listed conditions are. What are the listed conditions here? This is the same thing we always put in. Mary? Mike, listed conditions on this, what are we looking at here? I don't see any additional listed
Do we
conditions.
seal their dock?
Yeah,
There's a standard list of conditions that we put in the letter that Jennifer sends, that they have to, put coverage under the dock to protect it so nothing goes on the lake bed, et cetera, et cetera.
where are the listed conditions? Because I gotta put that in the motion.
The list of conditions,
I'm gonna amend my motion.
We'll find that
I'm
condition.
gonna amend my motion.
Standard conditions.
standard list of conditions.
I'm gonna amend my motion. Okay, set forth by the LMAC committee following standard conditions.
Right. And then we'll just add.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And
Yeah, standard conditions.
on the next one too.
Yeah, still over there, 6
Yeah. Just the next.
I move to approve the application for stone wall repair at 6 Sunny Slopes as set forth by LMAC committee with the standard conditions. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Dock repair. I move to approve the dock repair replacement of the deck top surface at 34 Edoni Road as set forth by the LMAC committee with the standard conditions. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Move to approve the emergency wall repair at 36 Edoni Road as set forth by the LMAC committee with standard conditions. What happened? You're doing the work, what happened there?
Oh, that's the one that we visited in the spring. There's a pretty good
Oh,
flood
yeah, okay.
in the road and, it just says a point, with water.
Yep.
I was there last week before, observing, taking pictures. And as big a drought as that we are having right now, there's evidence of water coming out from underneath that wall right now.
All right,
And we're in a drought.
yeah, I know it well. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Appointments and resignations. We're all set on the list? Okay. I move to approve the appointment as Janice Clausen as the tax collector. Tell us why. See a resume in here, correct?
Yes, sir.
Mark and Bev and Carol interviewed her.
Yes. And she's presently the tax collector of Wellington. I talked with the former first selectwoman, Erica Wojcinski. Erica had nothing but positive, said she's a hard worker, meaningful interactions, in and out of the town hall, great team player, super connections in the tax world. So she was stellar there. I also followed up with the regional tax collector for Chapel, Scotland, and Wyndham, Lisa Madden. Also said, great with the taxpayers, wonderful to work with. Both Erica and Lisa hired Janice when she originally started. Janice was the most qualified applicant we had. Impressed all of us, and we were very excited to make this offer.
I'd like to have this issue go into executive session. Like at the appropriate time.
so I am going to rescind my motion. I move to approve the appointment of Tom Courier to the Wyndham Regional Board of Directors. Is that a new spot?
No, he's been on it.
He's been on it for over
It has
12
to be
years.
done
Every year.
So
Oh, I
many,
thought he was on the Wyndham Transit.
It's a Wyndham Region, oh, it is a Wyndham Region Transit District. This is,
Is that what it says?
WRTD.
it's WRTD is what he's on.
Okay.
I'm gonna amend my,
It's WRTD.
Motion.
He doesn't want to.
we're gonna have to check that, but I move to approve the appointment of Tom Courier to the
WRTD.
Wyndham Region Transit
District, yeah.
District
Board of
Board of Directors.
Reappointed, yeah.
Reappointed. All those in favor? Aye. Are we good on the next? We talked about this. Here you go, Jen. I move to approve Timothy Stearns from the sixth, I move to approve from Timothy Stearns
from his
from his 6-month probation, place him as a full-time employee. Done a great job.
Timothy's great.
Beth is very pleased with the group we have. They've done great things. So he has all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And I move to approve Jake Plitt from the 6-month probation, place him as a full-time employee as rec director. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Town administrator report.
Real quick, there's a bold plan that CCM helped put together, working with a lot of players from the state to try to give a real picture to the Board of Ed Commission of the state that what they're doing, they're taking money from the towns in special education and it makes it look like they're level playing with ECS, but they're actually reducing other components of how they fund education. So this is a long report. It just got launched. It's eye-opening. They want to revamp how we fund education in the state, because the towns are watching that if we do nothing, basically will be $750 to $5.5 million underfunding our education system, the way we're handling everything else. So I'm not gonna get into detail. This is available. It is good reading. They're trying to, all the cities, we're in a crisis situation, that it's not working, kids are getting disconnected. They're not. So I'm just telling you, this is out there. They're trying to have a real discussion with the state. That the way you're funding education is not, it's on the backs for all the cities and towns. So I throw it out there. And good news.
Can you send us, is that an online publication? Like
Oh,
you
sure.
can send us the link?
Yeah, I can send you a link.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Send us a link so we can.
It,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's got a QR.
Oh, is that?
No, I hate you.
Yeah, I know.
And then you
I'll
guys,
send you the link. I'll
you
send you the
gotta
link.
use your phone and read it too.
And they have different.
Sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
They're not safe, they can be hacked.
okay, there'll be an equity distribution.
Please continue.
There'll be an equity distribution back from Herman. I haven't seen that exact amount yet. They tell us yet?
Did we get it?
I don't know, but there is, we're back into getting distribution. We didn't get one to the public. But we are now. So that's good news, because we all own. And that's all I have to say.
A lot of correspondence over the month. Budget, refunds. And no transfers, we have refunds. I make a motion to authorize refunds for $905.62 to those listed. Refund. Lewandowski, huh? How far back does this taxes from veterans go? Did we not? Oh, sorry. Okay. All those in favor? Get back to the refunds. Did they charge them full and they came in and said, hey, I don't think I'm getting my. Payment of bills. I approve the payment of bills. Totaling $362,800. Why is this different?
Oh, I'm sorry, 766.
I'm going to amend my motion.
766.
I move to approve the payment of bills totaling $362,766.33. Consisting of 24-25 emergency, 24-25 regular, credit card, and paychecks.
Had an issue with HVAC, town hall.
Town hall, we had the thermostat issue, we found some wiring that was incorrect and had that fixed.
And we paid for it.
We had to bring an electrician.
Good put it in.
No comments.
We're not positive.
Was it the one time with the heat was up, what, 90 or something?
Yes.
That's my guess.
Remember that.
It explains
It
that.
malfunctioned. So
Where are we on the, feels warm to get to me?
I don't think it's heat. There's too much going on.
Where are we on the dam gate mechanism repair?
Waiting for the parts to be in. It's supposed to be in.
Let's make a note, let's check out. Okay, thank you. Any discussion, any more discussion on bills?
No.
All those in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Okay. Audience citizen, anything?
Yes. Yeah, John, I'm gonna be. Have we started, planning for the next, for the update on, POCT, which is due 2 years?
I did start talking to John about that, and he said he would put it on the agenda for planning and zoning, because it's, they're in charge of what they do now.
What, I'm sorry, what are we
Planning
planning?
and conservation about POCD.
Oh, it doesn't come from here and a charge to planning and zoning.
I know they're in charge of doing the update. Board of Selectmen will have to bless it once it's done.
Oh, I thought it,
I would,
the chart, I thought the selectmen
POC.
instructed
This year
POCT
we're
start.
yes.
Anyway, it's almost 2025 and it takes a full year.
But while you're here, and I have a question, because I saw, and I had a question from a citizen in town, the Hop River cleanup that has been scheduled.
Yeah.
We have authorization from the state to do that?
That is under the purview of the Hop River Trail Alliance group. So we don't do that. They got permission
Through the work with the.
through the,
Okay, thank you. Do we have permission to do that cleanup? Because I know we can clean it up, anybody can pick up trash and stuff. I have somebody who has asked to get a brush hog in there to do the sides of the trail, so it widens it a little bit, because some of that trail is only this wide. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Always delightful to see you at the meeting here. We can count on you. When you're not here, I feel like the sun's not coming up tomorrow, so. I appreciate it.
can't have a
So, board member comments, yes, sir.
I have two. So first, shout out to our registrar of voters, both Gail and Elisa. I think they did a phenomenal job. 14 days of early voting. And then election day, which I believe went smoothly, so shout out to them. Second point, the Sustainable Connecticut, is there, someone had mentioned the, ramp access that's being looked at, the lake. Is that a possible project? Because I remember when they were here doing their presentation, they talked about equity and there are maybe, those that can maybe help us get access to grants and maybe other funding means for that as a Sustainable Connecticut project. Is that something worth looking into?
I think the grants were only as much as 2,000. I don't think they were big grants through Sustainable, but I'll check.
It just seemed like a project that maybe that committee
Yep.
could look into.
Any other, cool.
Chris should be commended for his hard work with the election as well.
Absolutely.
You were there all.
And we'll talk about it. So at this time, no other comments. I'm going to suspend the Board of Selectmen meeting and enter into executive session. And I would ask that Mark stick around and Beverly. Again. I'm gonna talk, hold up, please. There's a couple of things I'm gonna talk about, which she have input on.
Okay, hold on, let me just put it in.
Not really.
Now it is.
So at this time, 9:42, we're going to come out of executive session with no action taken. And we're going to adjourn the Board of Selectmen meeting. All those in favor? Aye. At 9:43 PM. Good night, Irene.
Oh,
It's been fun.
just way too late.